Welcome to the Career Success Secret Show. I am your host, Mike Tomasello. I want to start by welcoming you and our growing audience. This week, we're seeing New Jersey and Virginia join our top 3 states for listeners. And a special shout out to 2 of our new cities for top 3 listeners, Maplewood, New Jersey, outside of Newark, and Ashburn, Virginia, in the DMV area. Yes, they've joined our top 3 cities for listeners. Thank you so much for listening. Your support means everything to me. Today, we're talking about something absolutely essential, but often overlooked during the job search process: self-care. In the midst of a frustrating job search or a stressful career, it's easy to put yourself last. But I have to ask, are you truly taking care of yourself? Are you nourishing your body and mind with the care they deserve? In previous episodes, we've talked extensively about the importance of mindset. If you haven't yet checked them out, I highly recommend episodes 3, 10, and 12 as an excellent starting point for working on your mindset regarding your career or your job search. Recently, as I was sort of having an off couple of weeks myself, I realized I hadn't talked to you in detail about self-care. So today's episode is devoting to helping you identify areas where you can improve in your job search, not just to make it more effective, but also to make it more sustainable. And to start off, before we dive into practical strategies, let's address the 2 biggest myths about self-care that I constantly see tripping people up. Myth number 1, self-care is just about treating yourself or doing activities you enjoy. Treat yourself. I want you to treat yourself, and treating yourself, rewarding yourself is something different than self-care. Thinking that it's just about treating yourself is a huge misconception. While there's nothing wrong with binge watching Netflix occasionally or planning a month-long vacation, true self-care is about recharging your physical, mental, and emotional health. I'm going to say that again. It's about recharging your physical, mental, and emotional health. Many people actually end up more tired after their treat yourself activities because they're not addressing their actual needs for a healthier life. Real self-care often involves actions that might not immediately feel pleasurable, but it makes you healthier in the long run. When you avoid confronting your feelings by distracting yourself, you're likely suppressing emotions that could actually be giving you valuable signals about what needs to change in your life. So if you're only streaming, if you're only playing video games, then if you're only having copious amounts of alcohol or eating your favorite foods and none of them are healthy, then you can actually be suppressing the valuable signals that are telling you that something is off in terms of how you're taking care of yourself, and something is off about what you want to be doing in your future, whether it or not it be needing to adjust activities that you're taking in the job search to be more effective, whether or not it's realizing that you're not taking actions that are going to lead you to be healthier. Myth number 2 about self-care. Self-care is only considered when you're already burnt out. I see this all the time. I see this all the time with my clients, and I work with people all the way up to the vice president level, and the hundreds of busy professionals and job searchers I speak with every year. That's right. I'm not just talking about my clients. I speak with hundreds and hundreds of people every year. And when I find out they're frustrated or I find out they're burnt out, I will almost always ask them, what do your self-care activities look like on a daily and weekly basis? And 1, they will be shocked. They will often not even know what I mean by self-care. And 2, if they do know what proper self-care looks like, they haven't actually scheduled it into their day, or they haven't become habits. You're pushing yourself to the absolute limit. You're probably running on fumes, whether it be in your career or your job search, before you're even considering taking a break. Here's the truth. If you wait until you're completely burnt out to incorporate self-care, it's 100 times harder to get back to a healthy place. Why would you want to do that to yourself? Now, if you're already there, you're already there, and we work on moving forward towards the future. But by then, or now, for some of you, you've already developed unhealthy coping mechanisms and habits. And now we have to break the old habits and replace them with healthy habits and healthy self-care activities. Small daily practices are infinitely more powerful than occasional intensive interventions. So my coach always used to, and yes, I have a coach. My coach used to say, hey, if you're in the habit of sitting on the couch and not exercising, start a habit of 1 push-up a day, or start a habit of 1 sit-up a day. It might seem silly, but that breaking the old pattern and starting a new pattern, which is realistic for you and sustainable for you, will lead to a lot more powerful self-care and healthy habits in the future. Now, if you're not in a bad place, if you're not burnt out yet, great. Prevention is always easier than finding the silver bullet or a magical cure, especially when it comes to burnout during your career or job search. So we're going to take a quick pause here. If you are finding this content valuable, or you have found a previous episode valuable, please click on that follow button. Follow the Career Success Show on your favorite platform. And if you're enjoying what you hear, or you've enjoyed what you've heard in a previous episode, I'd be incredibly grateful if you could give us a 5-star rating and leave a comment or a brief review sharing your thoughts. Could be something that you write in less than a minute off the top of your head. Still helps us tremendously. Your support helps more job seekers and struggling career professionals find this information when they need it most. Now, let's get back to our discussion on career self-care. So I spent a lot of time thinking about the self-care activities that I do that help me be more effective in my career and that I do with my job seeker clients. So here's some ideas for you. Don't feel like you have to do all of them, but the more of them you do, the more likely that you're going to find yourself healthy and dealing well with whatever challenges are coming up in your career or coming up in your job search. Let's talk about what it actually looks like with these self-care activities. So I've put together my top recommendations based on what's worked for myself and my clients. Here are 17 self-care, career, and job search tips. Self-care tip number 1 for career and job search. Schedule your vacations and occasional days off in advance. When you're in job search mode, it's tempting to think you need to be on 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But that's a recipe for burnout. But planning breaks ahead of time, and I'm specifically talking about longer breaks. I'm talking about breaks where you take a half a day off, or you take an entire day off, or you take a week off. I'm not saying go out and take a month off. I'm not saying go off and take 2 or 3 weeks off, because then you can sometimes run into an opposite problem where it takes you forever to get back into a routine and you forgot what was effective in your job search previously. So by all means, if you need a vacation, take a vacation. If you're not in a position financially to afford a vacation, simply take time off where you go somewhere, time off where you take a day trip into nature, time off where you take a day trip and explore the city, take time off where you take time off and you spend time with family, whatever brings you joy or helps bring you relief or whatever. So you can plan a free staycation or break if you need that. If you haven't had that in a while, you're anticipating that you might have to start a job before you're able to have an adequate vacation. Plan it in advance. So by planning these vacations ahead of time, you're not only preventing exhaustion, but you're also giving yourself something to look forward to. Job search or tackling difficult things in your career can feel exhausting. It can feel draining. And if you have something in the future where you're like, oh man, I'm really excited about that, I'm looking forward to it, it's going to make all of the hard work worth it. You're going to make your job search easier. You're going to make showing up and doing those difficult things at work easier. So even if it's just an extra day so that you can have a 3-day weekend, have those occasionally on the calendar to make a difference. Self-care tip number 2 for career and job search is incorporate daily movement or exercise. Now, I get it. Not all of you are necessarily hardcore exercisers. This does not mean you need to train for a marathon. This does not mean that you need to go out and join a gym immediately. But if that's something that you were thinking about doing, then great. Even short walks can completely reset your mental state and reduce stress. Movement also gets you out of your head where you might be overthinking or ruminating or worrying and more into your body. This increases the likelihood that you can fully feel your emotions and use those emotions in a positive way, using those positive or negative emotions as guideposts for what you want to change or what you need to change. Self-care tip number 3 for career and job search: spend more time in nature. There are tremendous benefits to sunshine, fresh air, and minimizing the distractions of a bustling street. Hey, I get it. If you live in a big city, I love big cities myself, and there's something about removing all of the distractions, removing all of the extra stimuli that you find in a city and being closer to nature. If your options are limited, a visit to the closest park, or even if there's not a park where you can easily drive to, bike to, or walk to, just walking outside to your lawn or your neighbor's lawn can have positive effects. Nature has a way of putting our problems in perspective. Self-care tip number 4 for career and job search: decide what you actually want. Many job searchers get so burnt out because they don't even know what direction they're headed in, which compounds the frustration and the negative feelings even more. So take time to take stock of what's not working in your lives, what needs to change. But even more importantly than that, make sure you have a direction of what you want and where you want to go. Now, if you want more information about that, so don't be surprised, fast forward 1 or even 5 years, and you're disappointed that you're in the same place. If that has ever happened to you, if you've ever found, oh man, where did the year go? Man, I'm in a very similar place to where I was a year ago. It's probably because you are not being intentional on a regular basis about where you want to go. How could it be otherwise? How could it be otherwise that you're magically in this new and better place when you never decided where you wanted to go? Want more information on knowing what you want, especially regarding the job search? Check out episode number 7 of the Career Success Secret Show. If you're finding value in these self-care tips, please take a moment to follow the Career Success Secret Show on the platform that you're on right now. Your 5-star review, your ratings and your comments or your brief reviews not only make my day, they truly make my day, but they also help me help other job searchers discover these resources. Now, let's continue with more essential self-care strategies. I like to put some of the following in physical and social self-care. So let's move on to some of the physical aspects of self-care that are absolutely non-negotiable, or at least highly recommended during your job search or career. Self-care tip number 5 for career and job search: prioritize both the quality and the quantity of your sleep. This isn't a luxury. I'm talking about this from personal experience. I went the vast majority of my adult life with an undiagnosed sleeping disorder. And so I have researched the impact of sleep more than some research professionals probably have. Reduced sleep leads to increased errors, could be in your job, could be in your job search. Reduced sleep leads to slower reaction time. So if you're driving or biking or going anywhere, taking any sort of physical interaction, especially if your safety is involved, you not having adequate sleep can absolutely have an impact on that. Inadequate sleep can also spike irritability, stress, and anxiety, none of which are going to help you present your best self in interviews or networking or presentations or conversations with your boss or coworkers. Here's a sobering fact. Going without 7+ hours of sleep And that exact number will vary from person to person. But going without 7+ hours of sleep for most people is equivalent to having a blood alcohol level 0.05%, which is over halfway to being legally drunk. Over halfway to being legally drunk. Would you show up to an interview or a presentation to your CEO after having a couple of drinks? I hope not. Yet many of you are doing the equivalent by shortchanging your sleep and not even realizing that you're not at your best. Self-care tip number 6 for career and job search. Incorporate social connection throughout your week, preferably daily. This is often one of the mistakes and traps I fall into, is not getting enough social interaction. I work from home, or even when I worked in the office, sometimes I would isolate myself in my own cubicle or my own office and not interact enough with my coworkers. There's something about that water cooler effect. There's something about that break room effect. Now, if you're not getting that at work, if you don't want that at work, that's fine, as long as you're getting that social interaction throughout your day elsewhere. It's critical if you're working remotely, and especially if you're currently unemployed, it's critical to schedule out-of-house social interactions. If you were to talk to a mental health professional, or if you were to do research on self-care, you will actually find one of the most basic steps for even people that are really, really struggling in taking care of yourself. One of the first things they'll check is, did you go outside today? The people that end up being hermits and living out in the wilderness, but never ever leaving their home to even go out into the wilderness, a lot of times they've developed a habit of not leaving their house, and and of course, big coincidence, they just so happen to be more likely to be anxious, be more likely to be struggling. So if your options for meeting people locally are limited, regular phone calls with people who energize you and make you feel at least a little bit better can make a huge difference. Social isolation has been scientifically linked to increased health problems, including disease, stress, and even earlier death. Actually, social connection has been found in some studies to be even more important than what you eat and physical exercise. So this isn't just about having fun. It's about looking after your health and well-being. Here are some specific ways to increase your social connection during your job search. Again, we talked about phone calls. We talked about getting together with people for lunch, meeting someone for coffee, meeting someone for work, any type of interaction, preferably where you leave your house, but phone calls, if that's the best you can do, are great. Self-care tip number 7 for career and job search. And this goes very well with number 6. Call friends or family members who lift your spirits throughout the week. So self-care tip number 8 for career and job search: join a support group focused on job search, or join a support group focused on whatever important area of your life you want more support on. So there are hundreds and hundreds, and I'm including even countries outside the United States. In the United States alone, there are hundreds and hundreds of different free support groups for pretty much every single characteristic or quality under the sun. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a 12-step group or an area that you're struggling in. Free support groups are out there. Self-care tip number 9 for career and job search: get an accountability buddy to help hold you responsible for your goals and habits. This can be a friend, this can be a stranger, this can be a coworker, this can be a fellow job searcher, or it can be someone you pay. It can be a mentor. It can be a coach. But this is specifically someone to hold you accountable for whatever actions, goals, or habits that you want to be taking in your life. Self-care tip number 10 for career and job search: consider working with a therapist or coach, or both. Getting professional one-on-one help. There's no longer a stigma around getting professional one-on-one help. Things have changed a lot over the past 20 years. Even if you think no one you know is in therapy or no one you know has a coach, I guarantee if you think of 10 people, at least 2 or 3 of them are either currently working with a therapist or coach or have in the past. And for some of you, I actually expect the percentages to be a lot higher. It's becoming more and more not only accepted, but encouraged as even strong people, even people that are doing amazing in their professional and personal lives, have therapists and coaches. So pretty much everyone has heard of Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan, perceived by most people, if not all people, to be the number one professional basketball player of all time, or at least number 2 or number 3, depending on who you're talking to. Michael Jordan had 6 different coaches. He had his normal NBA team coach. He had a mindset coach. He had a coach to work with him in the gym. And so if Michael Jordan, one of the best in his field, saw value in getting a coach, why are you not seeking out people that can help you and support you in your journey? So tremendous for helping get your needs met, can often be transformative. Now, the emotional dimension of self-care is particularly important during a job search. It's particularly important during a challenging career. As heck, life can be an emotional roller coaster. Self-care tip number 11 for career and job search is learn emotional self-awareness through mindfulness or similar techniques. So you could get a book on emotional intelligence. You could consider getting a journal or a diary or simply a piece of paper where you log what you're feeling, log the negative emotions or things you're going through, positive ones as well, and it can help you identify patterns and triggers so that you can be more conscious about how you want to interact with your emotions. Self-care tip number 12 for career and job search is take regular breaks. So this is different than the self-care tip that we talked about in the beginning. In terms of taking regular breaks, now, we can't always take a day off. We can't always take a week off, but we can be taking regular breaks. We can be taking a 5-minute break every hour or so, or we can be taking a 10 or 15-minute break every couple of hours. Your brain needs time to process and reset. Self-care tip number 13 for career and job search: avoid ruminating on negative thoughts or situations. So if you don't know what ruminating was, you're not alone. I didn't know what ruminating was. Telling the same negative story over and over again, that's rumination. That's ruminating. If you're telling the same negative story over and over again, you're actually reinforcing those neural pathways that is a part of your reality, that is your normal default. And so you're going to tend to take on the same or similar emotions to whatever your most common stories are. So if you're telling everyone about this horrible sickness that you're going through, it's going to be more difficult for you to get over that sickness. If you're telling everyone about how you hate your boss or how you hate the job search and all the bad things that have happened to you, you're actually reinforcing those thought patterns in your brain. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't talk about it at all. It's fine to process what's happening. It's great to have someone else hear you, feel listened to. And after you've done that, if you're going to tell the story again, make sure telling the story or repeating that negative thing that's going on for you is focused on solutions rather than just repeatedly rehashing your problems. Self-care tip number 14 for career and job search: consider volunteering. Now, there's a caveat to this one. Be careful not to volunteer so much. Be careful not to give so much for others that you're using this as an escapism from your own issues. However, if you tend to ruminate a lot, if you tend to have difficulty stop thinking about your problems and focusing on solutions, if you get too caught up in your own struggles, then occasional volunteering can provide perspective. It can give you that social connection we were talking about earlier. and it can give you a greater appreciation for what you already have and a perspective that might help you realize that things aren't as bad as you thought. Self-care tip number 15 for career and job search. Don't neglect financial self-care during your job search. So this can mean a number of different things, but this might mean creating a realistic budget for your transition period. So I'm talking mostly for those of you that are going to be conducting a job search or unemployment, or you're anticipating a layoff. Making stronger financial decisions for your financial health could look like a variety of different things. It could be seeking out temporary work or seeking out part-time work. If necessary, making some of those financial pressures a little bit less. It definitely could mean having a budget and changing your budget for your new anticipated salary or a temporary cutback in salary. It can be having honest but difficult conversations with family members about financial priorities and taking back with stuff. You want to remove as much financial pressure from yourself as possible so that you don't have added pressure when you're going through a difficult job search like everybody is right now. Everybody, even people that are really, really good at job search, are not having the success, the radical amount of success that they might have been having in the past. So now that you know that, taking away that financial pressure is going to be a lot easier if you're proactively taking a look at your finances, your budget, how much money you have in the bank account, selling things, cutting back on things, moving to a lower cost neighborhood, whatever it looks like for you. Self-care tip number 16 for career and job search: practice gratitude. Taking even just a minute each day to acknowledge what's going well, even if there's challenges going on, can dramatically shift your perspective and energy. I'm going to tell you about the quick and easy gratitude exercise that I do with all of my clients at some point, unless they're just absolutely doing amazing 100% of the time, which, let's face it, who's rocking it 100% of the time? I'm certainly not. So here's the exercise. You're simply going to sit, you're going to breathe, preferably a deep breath. You're going to take a deep breath, and you're going to say the words, "I am grateful for," and as you're taking a deep breath, something's going to pop into your head. You're not going to overthink it. First thing that pops into your mind, you're going to say it out loud or to yourself or whatever. The important thing is you don't go fast, that you breathe, and this last part, super important, that you actually feel the feeling of gratitude. Because if you just make this a logical exercise where you're just going through the motions, you're going to be like, man, this gratitude stuff doesn't work. And I guarantee you, no matter how bad things are going, this gratitude stuff works. So it looks something like this. Deep breath. I am grateful for the roof over my head. Feel it. Deep breath. I am grateful for the money in my bank account. Deep breath. I am grateful for my loving friends and family. So you can do this 3 or 4 times and you can instantly improve. I'm not guaranteeing you're going to make things perfect. I'm not guaranteeing that you're suddenly going to be happy and everything's perfect, but you're going to start to feel, even if you're feeling really, really bad, you're going to start to feel your energy shift to something more positive, and even if it's not positive, something more manageable. And to point out some of my examples, hopefully most of you have a roof over your head. If you don't and you're currently unhoused, you're going to choose something else. Maybe you're going to be grateful for shelter. Maybe you're going to be grateful that you had a place to sleep last night where you weren't hit by the rain. Maybe you're grateful for the clothes on your back. So sometimes we're forgetting to be grateful for the simple things in our life, which not everybody has. So gratitude will change your life. Try to make it a habit. Self-care tip number 17 is the last one. I don't know if it's the best one. Maybe it's the best one. But self-care tip number 17 for career and job search is remember that self-care isn't selfish. It's a sustainable, and it's necessary for a sustainable and successful job search. You simply cannot perform at your best when you're depleted. You simply cannot perform at your best when you're exhausted. I hope debunking some of these myths about self-care, I hope these 17 self-care tips give you practical ways to take better care of yourself during your journey. Remember, self-care isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for maintaining the energy, focus, and positive mindset needed to land your ideal role, or to maintain happiness in your current role, or to overcome challenges in your current role, and can also help you towards working towards that next better career goal. I'd love to hear which of these techniques resonated most with you. Please connect with me on social media. My social media platforms are in the description, or leave a comment, DM me, email me, and share your thoughts or ask questions. If I can, if it's relevant to more of the audience, I will try to incorporate some of these into future episodes. Before you go, if you found value in today's episode or a previous episode, please follow the Career Success Show on whatever platform you're listening to it now. Your 5-star rating and your brief reviews and comments help us so much more than you could possibly realize, and it helps us reach more job searchers who could benefit from this information. So take a moment right now, hit that follow button, leave a review. Whatever you can do in 60 seconds is more than enough. Thanks so much for doing that. Thank you for tuning in to the Career Success Secret Show. I'm Mike Tomasello, and until next time, take care of yourself first. Put that mask on the airplane on yourself first so you can bring your best self to your job search and bring your best self to your career journey.